In a world where horrid stenches and piercing screams come not from the realms of fantasy, but from the nightmare of reality. Come two heroes, bonded by love and the kind of desperation only parents can know.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Behold, RPGs and Baby Makes 3, the greatest podcast in the history of all podcasts, by parents who have made a podcast about being gamers with a baby. Did I mention it's a podcast? Here are your hosts, Gretchen Hilmers and Rob Hessler.
Beep, beep, beep.
And this is RPGs and Baby Makes 3. Back from the dead.
It feels like it.
It's been a long time.
I wouldn't say dead, more like comatose.
I mean, you know, life happens, man. We're parents. You know, this is what this show's all about. And...
Y'all, toddlers. Me? Toddlers.
Admittedly, I mean, we've had opportunities to do the podcast, but it would require us having energy after navigating having a 2-year-old.
Yeah, so I will spend that energy, to quote a commercial, deep couch sitting and watching Star Trek.
Star Trek, whatever.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's roll for initiative.
They see me rolling.
Some people are born lucky.
Let's roll.
Roll for initiative.
We have, however, played some games. We've done some gaming.
We have.
We did already the first 2 sessions of the Supernatural game to honor Jack Roberts and Mike DeTavio. So we've got the third part still coming up. And actually, we posted the actual plays of that on the YouTube channel. So you can check that out.
No one's allowed to mention that I cried, or almost cried. I didn't cry.
Got emotional.
You're not allowed to mention it. Ever.
You know, I'm just going to... This is a pro tip, because I do a podcast professionally as well as this podcast, which is totally unprofessional. Generally...
Oh, you're saying the other one's professional. It's professional in many ways.
It is.
But our banter is sometimes professional.
I'm just saying, don't put your hand in front of your mouth when you're talking at a microphone.
I'm going to do what I want to do. And if it's a good microphone, can it pick up around my hand over my mouth?
Yeah, but then I have to edit up and down the levels and go through it point by point. Whereas if who cares? Nobody here cares about that. What are some other gaming that we've been doing?
Blades in the Dark?
Blades in the Dark. Now, that's been cool. I've really enjoyed learning about that
Yet again, Tamsa.
Again, Tamsa, always great GM to play with. And, of course, we've got in the group is Boots, who we've played with many times before.
Now coming up on 300 different...
No, I think 200.
200?
200.
I think it was 300.
No, it's 200. So Susan was saying maybe she's at about 300.
Oh, wow.
So Susan runs the Discord server that we're pretty active and playing on. So we got to play with the 2 of them and Tamsa running the game. And it's kind of like a mini campaign, I guess. I think we're just about to play the last session, and I think that's like the 5th session, maybe?
I don't know.
Somewhere in there. But it's really fun. And it actually kind of relates to our topic for today, I think, in a way, which we'll get to in here in a second. What else have we been doing? I've been playing Ironsworn.
You have. And we're going to be starting a session of Ironsworn, which should be pretty awesome.
Yeah, we're going to be doing an Ironsworn game that we're going to do as an actual play, and we're going to broadcast it live on YouTube. And it's...
That's
Gretchen.
a lot of pressure.
Oh, nah, not really. It'll be fine. You and I, Gretchen.
You and I and Gretchen.
Trust me, she has split personalities. That was not a mistake on my part.
Oh, man.
Amanda Plagman, who's been on the show many times and is the unofficial 3rd member of our hosting team here. And then our good friend Ben Sperduto of Last Redoubt Games, who did Hounds of the Czar and Augmented and Weirdwood, which is like literally one of my favorite small games. I was whatever.
Cuckoo, ka-choo.
And actually Ben just came into town and we got to hang out, and that was cool. Have some real actual time talking as people.
Well, yeah.
Especially me.
Some of us had more kid-related things to do. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, next time a friend visits town, you're on baby duty.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's fine. That's
Okay.
fair.
Yeah, it
I
is
think
fair.
that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But Ironsworn is a GM-less game you can play, and I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, but you can play as a solo player, where you kind of play the game out as a solo, running through, you use a mechanism called the Oracle to create sort of a randomness to it. You can play co-op with 2 to 4 players is what they recommend, although we actually started at 6, which was heavy, too many people. And finally, you can play with a GM. But we're playing the GM-less 4-person version, and that's what we'll be playing for our actual play. And I think it's amazing. I think it's just such an amazing game. It almost feels GM'd.
I'm a little nervous.
I know you are.
Because you are a fantastic GM. You do a lot of role playing. Amanda's fantastic. She does writing, storytelling, GMing, and then
Yeah,
Ben
Amanda just wrote a book, by the way.
And speaking of books, Ben has a book or multiple
Books. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the podcast.
And then here I'm rolling up like doopa-doopa-doo. Hi.
Well, I get that to a certain extent, and certainly it's okay to be apprehensive. I mean, those it's a real thing, and you know, I mean, the rest of us are kind of a big deal, so I understand the pressure. That being said, though, I think this is what's so great about this game to me is how much it allows its narrative first and then rules. So you're supposed to start everything you do by doing narrative. You describe what your character is doing. You describe the scene. You describe things first. You create the scene first, and then you make a move, and you roll dice for that move. And I think you have a great imagination. And so one of the things, it certainly helps when you have a GM or GM skills just to understand the gamey aspect of it. But I think in terms of your imagination, you are absolutely on par with the rest of us. So I think once you get rolling, I think you're going to love it.
Like dice.
Mm-hmm.
Rolling like dice.
And so Ironsworn is generally a sort of historical Viking, low magic fantasy setting, but we're doing it as post-apocalyptic, so we're doing something a little different with our Ironsworn.
You asked me what I thought would be most interesting, and I gotta go with post-apocalyptic. It was just my jam.
I gotta admit, I'm really excited though, because I don't think I've played a true post-apocalyptic. I've played games that had a post-apocalyptic feel, but I don't think I've ever played a real post-apocalyptic game, and if I did, it certainly wasn't more than a one-off. Can you think of any games we've played that are post-apocalyptic, like that we've played in post-apocalyptic type? I mean, I literally can't think of any. I couldn't think of any in preparation for this episode, and I couldn't think of any when I was thinking about doing the Ironsworn game. And I think my inspiration that I was thinking about when I was thinking about Ironsworn mostly came from movies and books.
Yeah, I don't think we have played anything post-apocalyptic.
We already did Session 0, and actually we'll post that up. Session 0 isn't necessarily going to be interesting to everybody because, you know, we're discussing a lot of different things. But in Session 0, we threw out a lot of the references, like books that we'd read, shows that we read.
Fallout.
I thought also, though, what was it?
The Road.
What about Station 11?
Station 11? Yeah, that's a good one.
That's it, right? Station 11, am I getting that
Yeah,
right?
I think
Remembering
so.
the title correctly, which is a book, but then also...
book which I read, which don't remember. I
You don't remember the
barely
book,
remember.
but then we watched the series. What was that, HBO Max?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was an airport.
Yeah. Well, that's a great post-apocalyptic television show that's a little bit different. Essentially, a flu kills off... This isn't a spoiler. The flu basically hits everybody and kills off most of the population. That's where the apocalypse comes from.
But we did avoid things like zombies, There's a lot of post-apocalyptic zombie stuff. Zombies, I don't think even came up once, did they?
We talked about horrors and the potential for undead creatures, and I think
It's mostly mutant creatures.
so. We have beasts, which will be mutants, but the undead, we could have that, like the potential for ghosts or things like that. But we kind of left it a little bit ambiguous. But even if they do exist, it would be more of like. Almost certainly this, because we talked about how, mutagens and science experiments gone wrong could have gotten out. And so I think we're having it, but it's not a zombie apocalypse by any means. No. So, yeah, we're going in a different direction.
Apocalypse.
I don't know what the term is.
It's kind of like what's going on today. And the question came up, is this the start of the apocalypse and we just don't know it yet?
We decided on 70 years from today would be our starting point. So that was the technology level, right? Or no, we added 10 or 15 years to our technological level and said the apocalypse happened then. And then we were 70 years past the apocalypse, I believe. Or 50 years or something. I don't know. It's in session 0.
So our son could be alive in this setting. Old as heck, but alive.
But yes, he could be. So
that's a crazy thing to think about.
It is weird. Yeah, we didn't want to go too far, but we wanted to go far enough. But anyway, people are interested in that, they can catch up. Still playing Ravenloft, of course, a Pathfinder game with Amanda Plagueman. I think it took a little bit of an interesting twist recently, where we seem to be encountering an area that's preyed upon by vampires, and that's really kind of fun in Ravenloft. And everybody's got, like, they're all like half drained and pale. Malnourished.
I'm sure everything's fine.
Yeah, everything's going to be fine there. Mm-hmm. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So, why don't we get into our main topic? But I might come back to some of this stuff later. But let's get into our main topic, shall we?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Before Gretchen falls asleep.
You got 20 minutes.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not gonna do what everyone thinks I'm gonna do. Flip out, man.
Look, I've got a major problem, okay?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
You have no power over me. Groans and moans.
So, the main topic of the show today, play every session like it's your last. That's what I'm coming up with here. So, what do I mean by that? Now, I'm not saying play like an idiot when you play your character, like guns ablazing every
Like
thing.
when the monster shows up, don't run off on your own. And then get angry when you're attacked by yourself.
Yeah, I'm not talking about play every session like
That might have happened in a game, folks.
I'm not saying play like a, where your character is suicidal and you're just running out into that. But I do mean that play the character, don't hold back. I think I've noticed, and I've played a lot of one-offs, and I've played with, in long-term campaigns and stuff, and well, first of all, let's talk about one-offs. If you're playing a one-off, you're not playing again.
Do it.
Don't hold anything back.
Do it now.
Yeah.
Just do it.
It doesn't mean, if you're playing a one-off, and let's say it's a fantasy game, and let's say you have a what is it called? Like a usable object? No, it's not a usable object.
I don't know. I zoned out for a second and stopped listening.
Like a potion. What are those things? They're when they're you can. I'm talking.
Single use.
Single use. Okay. Let's say you have a single use item. There we go. That's usable object. Right. This is why we haven't done a podcast in a while. If you have a single use item, like a scroll or a potion or magical fairy dust, and you're playing a one-off, use it.
Yeah.
Do not hold on to it because you're done after the session's over. Even if it's just a couple of sessions, just use the thing. Don't wait. Don't hold on to it. Like, what's the point, you know? And then also, don't concern yourself with dying. Now, I'm not saying don't, like again, play a suicidal, but, like, I think when you're playing a long-term campaign, your character is precious, so you don't want them to die. So making sure they don't die plays a major role in decision-making. Like, you don't want your character to die, right? But it's kind of a meta thing, because you think about, is your character that way, or is that you? You don't want your character to die. None of us want our, like, beloved character to die. You don't want Tick Tick Bramble being your Kendra to die.
You would be sleeping on the air mattress in the living room.
So, but you are playing, like, that. It's hard to not think that thought.
You're right. I do sometimes conservatively hold him back. But I also do that because I don't know that I actually... He knows he's a little guy. Like, he's not the kind to get in there and charge into things. He still does stuff.
I agree. I think he does a lot. Actually, Tick Tick is
Vital.
Yes, totally vital. The most important character in the game.
Absolutely. Saves everybody time and time again. And never gets thanked.
Tick Tick is the most important character, literally, actually,
Ever.
that's ever been made.
Ever.
Okay.
Yes.
So, you don't want Tick Tick to die. Because what a loss that would be.
People would feel the tragedy of that situation.
But, I mean, I know that that's like I know that that's like metagaming, and you're kind of like thinking about that. But I played a lot of games, okay? People do that all the time. That is a very common metagaming. And I don't know if I blame people for getting into that mindset, but how can I put... Okay, let's continue to talk about one-offs. So, but in a one-off, you're never coming back to that character, okay? And let me tell you something. If you're playing the one-off and your character dies, you're probably going to remember that character more than if your character lives. I think about the one-offs where my character dies, I remember them all. I always remember when the character dies. Like, I remember when my oiled-up muscle dude from Troika died against the Breadbirds.
So ridiculous.
You know what I mean? And like I
like
remember
a magpie. It was a magpie is what it was.
Yeah. And I remember that game so vividly. That character was really fun to play, but also because the character died, you know, like it was a one-off and the character died. 10 Candles, of course your character's going to die, but I really remember my character dying in Tamsa's 10 Candles game that we played, like at the end. And I guess part of 10 Candles is you're not really trying to preserve your character because you know the game you end and you narratively describe your death. I mean, you're gonna die in that game, so that's a little bit different. But I found that I don't really hold back with those characters. Like, I take chances. We're playing Blades in the Dark. Now, let's transition to shorter campaigns. I was making the argument while we were talking about like scores and who we're going to piss off and who we're going to pay off and like who we're going to try to keep on our side. I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
We're all a bunch of unscrupulous characters who are trying to get as much as we possibly can. Next session's probably the last. Let's let all the clocks build up. Let's let everybody be pissed off at us. And we're going to go for one last big score. And that's like the cool, right? That's the cool thing.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I mean, if we win, awesome. If we don't, also awesome. Right? And we're not holding back. We ultimately all collectively decided we are going to not pay back one of our contacts because we're like, we'll take 2 gold and and who cares if they come after us, because it'd be cooler if they came after us. You know what I mean? And I don't really care if my guy dies because it'll be cool.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think it's easier to fall into, for personally speaking, I think it's easier for me to fall into that mindset when there hasn't been a crap ton of crunch that I've had to go through. Like, if I have had to roll multiple dice, spend multiple hours building my character, like, I just sacrificing my character upon an altar of gaming is hard because that's me sacrificing my personal time too.
I get that. That's fair.
But when it comes to like a pre-gen or a character that, I just randomly named, Pointy McStabbers 10 minutes before the game started, or...
Well, okay, that's... Most people, I think, if you're in that kind of dire straits in terms of character creation, you're not going to care about those characters at all. Okay, that's just... Obviously, you're not going to care about that. But... And obviously, when you put a ton of time into a character's crunch, you're going to care about that character more so. But don't you think, though, that the best moments are the moments when you take the chances and succeed, or even fail? Like, I think it's just like... I don't know, like... I guess I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy getting ripped apart by the monster in Cthulhu. You know, I don't know, maybe we're really getting into my psychology here more than anything. But I like testing the limits.
The man who can't watch horror movies likes it when his character gets ripped apart.
And I also like seeing how far I can push it and taking chances and not playing in fear of my character's death. I think it makes it a little bit more exciting for me. You know what? That's what it comes down to. It's more exciting for me that way. I enjoy the game more that way.
You cackle a lot. Well, Blades in the Dark, you've been having a lot of fun with your bruiser.
Oh, I just have a really fun character, too. He is really fun. John Henry Lynch. Big bruiser.
Yeah.
But, I mean... By the way, we're going to have to talk about this sometime. Brutes are the best. Brutes have become my favorite characters.
I played a Brute, and I want to play a Brute, but I think... I was going to play a Brute for the upcoming Ironsworn, but I think Amanda beat me to it.
Beat you to it like a Brute?
She, her thing is... I said she plays a similar character quite often, and she decided she's not going to do that. And it's also the same time I decided to do it. So I got to switch it up.
Yeah, and we should talk about this in a future episode as well, is about what type of character do we play even when we're playing different characters. Because I think that it is interesting, like you can play a character that on paper seems different, but they end up being played the same. And we all have our character that we play over and over again.
Yeah, I feel like my Blades in the Dark character, Aura, is kind of the same as, what was the Hounds, or is it Hounds? No, it's not Hounds, it's Zara. It was...
The Desanction.
Desanction.
They're similar. Yeah, there's a similarity there.
Mm-hmm. Very, very similar.
So if you want to know that, you can actually watch our Desanction live play that we put out as well on YouTube. And that character, I think, that character ended up being pretty well developed in Desanction because we played it over 3 sessions. And it was great because it was just 3 players. So it was a lot of character stuff. It was a lot of that character development. But yeah, I mean, that character was cool though. And you didn't you took chances with that character. You guys were like, there was a lot of craziness happening in that game.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff happening in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean...
Megan now. Megan from Supernatural. I love that sassy gal. I do.
So do you play her like it's your last session, or do you...
I think it's a kind of combination, because her psychology is... She isn't a very self-sacrificing kind of person. She will gladly send someone in before her. But she's also the kind of person that'll take a swing at Krampus with a candy cane. So, it's really hard to say.
Yard candy cane and oversized candy cane. Let's just clarify that to our listeners.
Yeah. To great effect. It definitely worked out well.
Oh, that was just, what a legend.
Yeah.
But I think also, I wonder if the Supernatural RPG in and of itself, which deliberately describes itself as a fail-forward game, as the kind of game where losing just starts the next scene. It mimics the idea of the show. Like, the the boys get
True.
their butts kicked and then they wake up tied to a chair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there is that. So I think that's kind of in the back of our heads to a certain extent, right? I mean, like, we know that. You have a lot of control over the narrative of Supernatural as a player, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, none of the characters have actually died in play.
No, nobody's died in play. Has
mean,
anybody even gone unconscious in play?
I thought Pete's character got clobbered, didn't he?
Maybe.
I don't remember.
Still, I mean, it all comes down to the. See, this is a good topic because there is. It's not a black and white. I think this is interesting.
Yeah.
Because I went into this saying, like, you know, the topic is play every session like it's your last. But I actually think that's not really like a black and white statement. I don't think that's necessarily a fair statement. Because, I don't know, I guess when you're playing, I don't know. I guess this is more of the topic should be, I like to play every session like it's my last. Not, you should. Because actually, I find it equally valid that you wouldn't now that we've been talking about it. Because I can understand when you're talking about that with crunch. If you spend 3 hours making a character, you're not going to want to have that character die.
Man, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time for when time is so precious.
Oh. Yeah, that's why I like the simpler games.
Me too. I really like them. I can't. My brain was not a crunch brain before I had a kid, and now that I have a kid, my brain is like 40% mush half the time.
All right, so we have absolutely gone on a wiggly, crooked road about this topic here. But do you think those simpler games would more fall into the category of live each session like it's your last because the character creation process on those is simpler? So, like, let's talk about something.
I think it's more about duration.
Do you mean campaign duration? If you're talking about a one-off. So for one-off, you don't care.
I mean, if I get 40 sessions in and my character dies, like, that's a lot of time to be in that mindset to lose that character. Like, I think for me, you just spend so much time being this other thing that if that were to come to an abrupt end, it would probably have a psychological effect on me in real life.
People love to pretend like these things don't mean something to us, that you're not playing yourself, but every character has a bit of ourselves in it, and you develop a bond with those stories. I don't know, with the story. You know, like, it matters. I think it matters.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said,
Megan is very much me, but
it would be so sad if Megan died.
It would
like,
be.
I would be upset if Megan died, like, as a character. So I understand that, and I mean, I'm the game master.
Ghost.
She probably would. Definitely a vengeful
You have
ghost.
to burn those bones.
I mean, I would be upset if Tick Tick died as well.
Tick Tick. The thing about Tick Tick is, even when I am just feeling so crushed and I am full of anxiety and depression and all of that, when I sit down to play Tick Tick, I get into the mindset of, you know, life is an adventure and it's all about friends and having fun and being there, and it's a nice little solace for me.
For sure.
And so I think losing that bit of therapeutic role play would hurt. Because I don't know that I could play a happy-go-lucky character again in that game. Like, I don't know that would be... because I would play too similar to Tick Tick. So I think I would have to go a different direction.
So you wouldn't have the opportunity to have that nice, fun release anymore.
Yeah.
That's what you would lose from Tick Tick dying. Because I understand that too, and it's kind of like no character will ever replace that. even if you end up, you would you're right. It's like you can't play. We play similar characters, but you'll never play the same. They'll have, because it won't feel right. You know, it won't feel, well, I mean, maybe not right away at least.
Yeah. I mean, I think another slightly similar character was the newsy little boy that I played.
But he was much snarkier.
He was very snarky, very energetic, though, just like Tick Tick.
Yeah, but he wasn't as... He was snarky and sarcastic a little bit.
And selfish.
And a little selfish.
Yeah. He was
definitely a street rat.
Yes, he was. But strangely, because of the way I rolled, a rich street rat.
Tick Tick isn't... Tick Tick enjoys the finer things in life.
Yeah, he likes...
I mean, he likes good food.
Yeah, that's the finer thing in life that he enjoys.
Yeah, but like he'll eat. He wants all the foods.
He wants all the food, but he will happily sleep in a muddy valley with his friends.
As long as he's eating a delicious, like, I don't know, scone.
Yeah, he'll definitely pull out like a full-on feast for everybody in that muddy valley.
It's time for afternoon tea. Well, that's interesting. We've gotten a little bit off topic, but I really think it's kind of an interesting. It's an interesting thing to look at. If we should play every session like it's our last. I mean, even with... But... I know you love Tick Tick now. But let's say 10 years from now. Let's say we end the campaign this moment. This is what you got out of Tick Tick. Okay? That's it. And imagine 10 years from now. Versus, let's say we play another 20 sessions. And Tick Tick Light sacrifices himself for his friends in some way and dies. In 10 years, what is the more memorable thing? In what way would you look more fondly upon the character? In which way would it be a better memory, do you think?
Well, see, I think the way that my brain works, the long game is the important thing for me. So I think I would look at it as all of this fun and enjoyment that I had throughout his lifetime versus this epic moment that happens.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's just the way my brain is.
It is true, and I think actually we both sort of fall into that category. Because I'm actually, the journey, we talked about this in another podcast, the journey versus the destination. I love the journey. I love the journey. So I think one of the reasons why I like Ironsworn so much is because it's so reliant on what happens during the journey. And that's like my favorite part of RPGs. I realize that. It's my favorite part. I mean, sure, I like the big boss fight. But my favorite part is like the discovery. You know?
Yeah.
In the middle of it. Interesting. Well... I think it's been a great conversation. I hope other people could follow along.
I followed along, but I've been with you for 22 years.
Well,
I keep asking you what year this is. It is 22, right? It's 22, 23? I don't even know anymore. 99?
Time has no meaning.
We've been together longer than anyone I know.
You mean in terms of couples that have been together?
Yeah.
I think Tracy and Joey.
Yeah, but I don't know Tracy.
Okay, they're acquaintances. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's true.
And there's someone out there. We just don't know. We just don't talk about it, right? I don't know.
Somi and Jeremy?
Yeah, they've been together a long time.
Longer than us?
I mean, probably.
Who cares about this?
Nobody cares.
All of these people are in relationships. We hope you are in a long-term relationship that is fulfilling and enjoyable and that involves lots of gaming. Let's close off this episode.
And lots of therapy.
Let's get to the end of this episode. So I wanted to talk about one more thing here as we're ending the show, and that was that I recently read Ben Sperduto's Blackspire, his book Blackspire, and I loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, you really enjoyed it.
It's, Ben is the creator of Last Redoubt Games, Weirdwood, Augmented, The Hounds of the Tsar, which looks awesome. Can't wait to finally delve into that at some point. But I've been really into grimdark, and I've been reading a lot of grimdark. It's so grim and so dark.
Pre-pandemic, you
No, this is a new thing for me. I liked heroic fantasy, and now I'm into grimdark fantasy. I've just really changed my genre, and I think it is something to do with the world around. I'm just in that
Why don't you
place.
start watching horror movies with me?
One step at a time. I think, though, that... So I had an interesting thing here, just to kind of to talk about this in general. And this is so funny. And I told Ben this, too. It's like, when somebody is your friend and they do something creative, you want to support it. Like we all do, right? And that doesn't mean we might not offer some constructive criticism, but we're not reviewers. We don't go to them and be like, I give it a 2 out of 5 stars. This wasn't very good, and here's all. You know what I mean? That's not how we do it. We're like, that's great, good job. Like, I really liked this, and I really liked that. We do that, right? And so, I guess I would say that I have a lower threshold for what I will consider good, or how I view things when it comes to my friends, because I want to be supportive of them. So I want to point out the best of things. Okay? The reason why I explain all of that is because I went into Ben's book saying, okay, well, Ben's a friend of mine now, and we've kind of getting to know him, and I just want to read this book to be supportive of him with the hope it would be friend good. You know what I mean? Like, where I could come out of it and be like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. I really like this. I really like that.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't friend good. It was actually really good. Like, if I just randomly had picked this book up, it would be, to me, a really good grimdark fantasy book. It's kind of like an urban fantasy book. It's grimdark urban fantasy. It's kind of, the technology is more like medieval style or something along those lines. But it has it's very much set in the city. And everything happened, the city of Blackspire. And he had, there's 5 characters, basically 5 main characters that their whole lives are intertwined. It ended really well, which is always great. And it left open the possibility for a sequel without feeling like you need a sequel. It definitely completed the whole story. Ben has got a really, he has a great way of describing the city. The city is so much a part, like another character in the story, and it was so vibrant. I mean, the smells, and it was horrible. It was like the worst place ever. Lowtown, which is where everything is set, and there's all these different boroughs. It was horrible. Like nobody. It was so, literally, the book opens with a character being woken up by street crap shovelers throwing poop at his windows. Now, I described that in the nice, safe for kids version.
Yeah, which we do on this show.
Yes, but let's just say the description was a bit more edgy in the book.
The edge of a shovel?
Right. So, I mean, it's cool, though, because, I find it to be influencing me. I read a lot of this stuff, and I take it as influence for RPGs, and this book most certainly did that, but it was also just a really good book, and I loved it. And I told Ben this is the thing I know when I'm reading a good book is when I'm not reading the book, I think about the book and I can't wait to read it next. Mm-hmm. And I experienced that several times while I was reading his book. So anyway, good job with Ben, and you can find that book pretty much everywhere.
Check it out after I finish reading about the history of rabies.
Yeah. And how's that impacting you?
It is fascinating.
Give us a fascinating tidbit here for the listening audience that they might not know.
I guess one thing
you told me something the other day
that it's you suffer from hydrophobia, and
that's amazing.
So, I guess someone presented the case of Edgar Allan Poe's death to a group of forensic people, pathologists maybe, but did not identify the person as being Edgar Allan Poe, and based on the facts that were presented, they think it might have been rabies that he died from, because he was an alcoholic And in his final days, he did not drink, and he couldn't drink. And telling an alcoholic wanting to not drink is, in your final days. And he also had very lucid days and very just distorted, out at, crazy days. And it took, I can't remember right now, it was like, I think people usually spend 3 or 4 days dying. Mm-hmm. And that's how long it took him. So
Edgar Allan Poe might have died of rabies. That's so fascinating.
Which is so fitting for Edgar Allan Poe.
What a weird thing, right? God, I hope it was like a bat.
I feel like
he got bit by a raven.
Die though.
Oh no, of course it's terrible.
Horrible way to die.
But
and Louis Pasteur first tested out the human vaccination on a child.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Wow. And how'd it go?
Good.
Okay.
We survived.
Happy ending on that. You might want to tell our audience that before they'll be like, "What happened to the kid that he stabbed?"
Louis Pasteur was not very he was suffering from extreme anxiety during that period. So yeah, I mean, who would want to be like, "Well, you tested out a vaccination and you killed a child"?
Oh my god, seriously. Great. Those are interesting books. Who does that book? Do you know who's by?
No, and my Kindle is frozen right now. It's making me very angry.
You know what? You should grab your Kindle after we finish this podcast and go and plug it in to see if you can reset it.
I think letting the battery die.
You think it's a dying battery situation?
I think letting it die will reset it.
Oh, man, that's the worst, because this particular Kindle actually lasts a long time.
It really does. Anyway.
Anyway, some good books there. Totally different books, but both, I guess, kind of dark.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, dark, hopeful.
Yeah. We'll be on again soon, though, and coming up starting
Soon-ish, maybe.
Okay.
We have some great ideas lined up.
We do. We actually have some really great ideas.
We just have to talk to people to help get them on board.
Yes, we do.
Because they're guest episodes.
But if you're listening to this somewhat near the release time of it, then on March 31st, 2022, will be the first session of Ironsworn, of our new Ironsworn Post-Apocalyptic game. That'll be streaming live on YouTube, on the RPGs and Baby Makes 3 YouTube. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So you can tune in and you can make comments while we're talking if you want. You can tube in. And look, obviously Gretchen and I are cool. You know Amanda Plegman is cool. And you definitely know that Ben is probably the coolest of all of us. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is all I've got, Rob. My brain is
You're doing
dead.
great. We are going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. If you made it this far,
you win.
You get a plot point.
You win.
You have advantage on your next die roll.
You get more XP.
There. Everybody gets XP.
Everybody gets XP.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.
RPGs and Baby Makes 3 is a production of Gretchen and Rob sitting on their couch. Email the show at rpgsandbabymakes3@gmail.com. You can find more episodes on Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes, as well as on our free Patreon page at patreon.com/RPGs and Baby Makes 3.